Ladies and gentlemen, this is a new era in the Huddle. WYGL Podcast. The Real Lil Show.
Yes, sir. And the next topic here, gentlemen, is the interesting comments and confident comments made by DeAndre Hopkins on the Jalen and Jacoby show. He said, quote, "I definitely think I'm the best. I know I'm the best. Mike's my boy. I love Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas. But he knows if I had Drew Brees my whole career that these numbers would be what these numbers would be. Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones knows if I had Matt Ryan my whole career, that's my boy. I trained with Julio too. He knows what these numbers would be." So, gentlemen, is DeAndre right? Is he the number one wide receiver in the league? Who do you guys have?
DeAndre Hopkins, D-Hop, is definitely right. He is the best wide receiver in the league. I mean, I don't see nothing wrong with his statement. Mike Thomas has one of the best quarterbacks, and to be honest, in my top 5 of all-time quarterbacks, in Drew Brees. Okay, he and the system that they run in New Orleans is unbelievable too. So they have a perfect system, and they have a perfect coach and quarterback to run that system. And his production, it allows his production to go up. I mean, this guy is getting more than 8 receptions a game. This guy, he literally gets target on almost every play, and it makes his production go easier, goes more up. You think about the Julio Jones. Yeah, Julio Jones obviously he's right up there. I won't be mad if somebody say Julio Jones, but he does have Matt Ryan, who is a very, very, very good quarterback. When you think about it, it's just that their defense stunk the last couple of years or whatever. But their offense has been productive, and Julio has been dealing with injuries here and there. But I mean, Deshaun Watson, I'm not trying to discredit Deshaun Watson here. Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback, but he's still young. He doesn't have the experience that Matt Ryan has in the playoffs. Matt Ryan been to a Super Bowl. Drew Brees won a Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson hasn't even been out the first round until last year, until they blew that lead with bad coaching, which is another thing. With Bill Bryan, I think it's bad coaching as well. That has a lot to do with that. So, D-Hop had to endure Deshaun Watson's rookie year in the playoffs, which obviously he looked nervous. He looked shut up himself that rookie season in the playoffs in the wild card. He didn't have the luxury of having guys with experience, guys that know how to work the football field as a field general. So he's definitely number one for me.
I think it's a very interesting debate. I mean, to start off, I think this year people finally realized that these two guys, Hopkins and Thomas, are the best 2 wide receivers in football. To be honest, I've never been that high on Julio Jones. Like, he's very good, no doubt. But I would put Kenny C's boy, Devontae Adams, at the top of that list as well. I think
over Julio?
It's tough, but I think Adams last year was better.
You know, I will say, I like that, Zach.
Right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Wow.
Look, I'm two-sided on who's the best in the league. I agree with you 100%. I think Devontae slept on. He's definitely, in my eyes, he's in the top 5.
I think he could be in the top 3.
No,
Arguably, he could be. He could be.
Mike Evans is better than Devontae Adams. I'll take Mike Evans any day.
Evans, man, I got to be honest.
But look, let me stay true. Let me not steer too far from this. If you're looking at who's the number 1, you could make a case.
Thomas, no doubt. I just think Julio Jones is overrated. That's
listen. You could make a case for Julio though, because look, he had his worst season in the past 6 years. Last year was 1,394 yards with 6 touchdowns and 99 catches. That's a down year for Julio. I think he's a great wide receiver. They haven't had the best of offensive line, but I do agree with Leo ultimately. I would pick D-Hop because, like you said, you had Watson. Watson, I mean, two-time All-Pro. He's great quarterback, obviously. He had that year where everybody's like he's going to be the MVP, and then he's tore his ACL, unfortunately. But look, you look at prior to Watson, what Hopkins had, quarterbacks like Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett,
Brock Osweiler,
Brandon Whedon, like, come on.
Brock Osweiler.
Exactly. He still made the Pro Bowl in 2015, finished 3rd in the league for reception yards with 1,521, 7th in the league with touchdowns with 11, since 2013, he's had 6 1,000+ yard seasons and a total of 4,115 yards and 31 touchdowns. So the guy's resume is phenomenal, and I do agree with you. Julio could be a little overrated, but I mean, hey, the guy still has 5 straight 1,000+ yards.
I don't agree with him being overrated. I think it's.
Let me say this also.
I think Julio's still a top receiver. You can't say that.
When we're asking this question about 2020, right? When you're asking, who do you think is the best receiver in the league? The way I'm interpreting that question is in 2020. Like, who do I think is going to have the best season right now? And the thing with DeAndre Hopkins also is he's going to be on a new team, which I think eventually that will help him. Or, you know,
I think he's going to excel with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, definitely.
Agree, but at the same time, in year one, sometimes, you know, it takes a little bit of time to develop that chemistry to become the best receiver in the league. So for me, I'm actually going to say Michael Thomas is the best receiver in the league. I love Hopkins' talent. I think he's right there, man. You know, he's obviously great. But Michael Thomas broke an NFL record for catches last year. Like, that's insane. Like, that's not really
149 receptions.
That's not spoken about enough. And this guy gets in the end zone. Oh, he's just so consistent. And I think Hopkins is as well. But I feel like Hopkins will have some periods of time where he is not heard from for a couple drives. You remember in that playoff game against Buffalo, he didn't really get going until late. And I love Hopkins as a player. I would have him at number 2. But I think Michael Thomas is more consistent, and I think he's the better player.
I mean, part of it had to do with the Texans' slow start as well. I think, listen, I
they
do
didn't
agree.
have the best of offensive lines either.
Exactly, that too. And I do agree that Michael Thomas, his production, from a production standpoint, is unbelievable. But at the same time, the way how their offense is ran on the Saints, he catches a lot of short passes. D-Hop is more of a down-the-field guy. I mean, his hands is unreal. I remember that play that stuck in my head when he tipped the ball and did some footwork and was able to bring it down with one hand while fully covered. The brother has hands. He is known as hands. And I think he is the best wide receiver simply because he didn't have the quarterback. He doesn't have that spectacular quarterback.
Now he does in Kyler Murray. So I'm talking about 2020. Like, who is the better player?
2020
is start. I mean, really, the season is start.
You think
we're talking about the last couple of years.
To me, Michael Thomas.
We're talking about right now who is the best wide receiver in football.
D-Hop. I mean, look at his receptions, though. Look at his production.
Look. I have to agree. 2019, I think Michael Thomas is number 1, hands down. 1,725 yards, 9 TDs, and broke the receiving record in the season.
And he's younger.
Last year, he was definitely the best. Now
we talking about
you throw D-Hop into Kingsbury's new system with the young Kyler Murray and a line that's definitely growing. I think, Larry Fitz is going to take a bit of a back seat. The man already had 800 receptions last year with that banged-up offense. So I think D-Hop becomes the clear number 1, and I think he balls out in my eyes. I think he will be neck and neck with Thomas.
DeAndre Hopkins, his last 5 seasons, is number 2 in the league in receptions with 504 receptions. Reception yards, 6,590, second in the league. Reception touchdowns, 46, second in the league. So he has been productive. Yes, we can talk about Michael Thomas being productive, but from these stats right here, D-Hop has been productive with the team around him that is not the best team other than Deshaun Watson being there and still being young at that, and a coach that makes terrible decisions at times.
I will say, though, for Michael Thomas's sake, being that he's only been in the league since 2016, I do agree he's been consistent as hell every single year. And so you can make the same argument for D-Hop since 2013. So these guys are neck and neck. And honestly, you put them at 1 or 2 interchangeably for me.
It's really interchangeable.
It's so close.
Julio, for me, is my clear number 2. I'm going with Julio number 2. I mean, he's 1,000 yards, 5,000 yards, wide receivers.
And what has he won? Nothing.
I mean, he balled out in the Super Bowl. I remember that game. That tiptoe on the sideline, he balled out.
But we're not talking. I mean, I guess, but we're not. I'm talking about 2020 Julio Jones. That's 5 years.
My thing is, I'm basing this list on who I think on the eye test, on the paper, who is top 5. I'm not talking about who had the better season 2019. Because hell, I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers that did good 2019, but that don't make them a top 5 wide receiver. I mean, Devontae Parker from the Dolphins had a good year. That doesn't mean he's a top 5, top 10 wide receiver. So I'm basing it on the eye test, eye to eye, stack up against each other. Because it's unfair to make that list when guys don't have the great quarterback behind the center throwing in the football. So it's basically unfair.
Oh, no,
I'm talking about production. Yeah, production matters.
Overall,
but also the eye test.
Since he's been in the league, obviously Julio has been a phenom for the past, 6-7 years. So to say that he's not, top 5 currently, like,
and he's going to ball out this year.
Seasons is blasphemy. But I do agree with Zach. We're talking about 2020. He's definitely fallen off his high horse. But that's not only Julio.
And he's going to have Julio Jones is going to have a revived season this year because you have Calvin Ridley on the other side who's going to take some of that pressure away from him, and you have Todd Gurley.
Okay, but I mean, what has Todd Gurley done in the last year?
I'm just saying. If Todd Gurley shows any shades of the old Todd Gurley, and that's a big if, right? You still have Calvin Ridley on the other side. Julio Jones will have a chance to be more productive than he has been last season.
I guess I agree, and I think he's very good. I don't know, man. I just think, like, I know we're not talking fantasy football. I just did a whole podcast on it. But I don't know, man. I'm just not as high on Julio. Like, physical standpoint, absolutely. He's a 6'5" beast. Very hard to guard. Totally understand that. But from a productivity standpoint, I don't know, man. Like, I just think he has his moments, obviously. Like, he'll have the big play once in a while. But in 2020, I just feel like I never was watching a Falcon game, and I was like, what a play by Julio Jones. He just won them the game. He just really provided them with some momentum. Like, he didn't make enough big plays that really impacted the game for me. I said Devontae Adams, I think, is comparable. I think, when you combine his productivity, the fact that the Packers have been a little more successful, they're obviously very different players, but I think Tyreek Hill is in this conversation as well. And I don't know, man. I just think Julio is much further behind Thomas and Hopkins based on everything we've seen.
I'm sleeping with Mike Evans.
Going into 2020, I'd agree. I mean, last year, Julio did have much better stats than Devontae, but that has to do with a whole offensive struggle. I mean, I'm the Packer fan, so I would know that. But I do agree with you. Devontae, to me, he's in there. He could be top 5 for me. And going into 2020, I definitely think he can be in top 5. If he's not in your top 10, I don't think you're watching football.
Yeah, he's definitely top 10. But you also got to take into consideration Mike Evans. I mean, he had a turnover machine at quarterback.
No, there's a handful of guys that are.
Let's see what Mike Evans do with Tom Brady.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm curious. You're a Tom Brady guy. So what you say that Mike Evans had the turnover-prone quarterback? Absolutely. But at the same time, I don't think a lot of people are really talking enough about the difference between playing with Tom Brady and playing with Jameis Winston. I think one of the main reasons why Mike Evans was so good last year is because even though he had a quarterback that threw a lot of interceptions, he also had plenty of touchdowns, and he also had a quarterback that frequently would throw the ball down the field. I know you're a big Brady guy, and obviously, he's the best quarterback of all time, all that good stuff. But talking about 2020, Tom Brady, we don't really know where exactly his arm strength is right now. And we don't really know if he's going to be able to throw the ball 60 yards down the field consistently like Jameis Winston did. I think you kind of saw that last year in New England. His long pass game did struggle a little bit, and maybe that has to do with the weapons as well. I understand the weapons in Tampa Bay are better.
Absolutely.
Their offensive line is better than what New England's was last year. But at the same time, that's a concern also, and I just don't think that's something enough people are talking about.
I mean, I think this. Tom Brady did have a lot of flashes that showed he still had the arm strength, but there were times where it showed that, at the end of the day, he is at the age of 42. His arm strength is not as what it was when he was 20 years old, 25, should I say, 25, 26, or even in his 30s. But at the same time, these guys, one-on-one, can create separation. Even if they want short passes, these guys know how to create separation. So I can see a scenario where Mike Evans becomes the next Michael Thomas. Same thing with Drew Brees. Drew Brees can get Michael Thomas the ball. I can see Mike Evans and Chris Godwin having another being like Michael Thomas. But at the same time, if Tom Brady needs to get a couple passes down the field, I believe he will be able to do so. And in the red zone,